Chapter 19 of 7 Footprints to Satan by A. Merritt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. Chapter 19. The Black Throne Falls. A day had gone, and another night had come before I saw Satan again. Before, in fact, I saw anyone except the pallid-faced drinkers of the keft who brought my food. I had been taken, I conjectured, to one of the underground rooms. It was comfortable enough, but windowless, and of course, doorless. There they had unbound my arms and left me. And then my rage swiftly ebbing, hopelessness took possession of me. Barker would make every effort to get to Considine, I was sure of that. But would he be able to get to him in time? Would Considine accept his word for what he had discovered? I did not think so. Considine was of the kind that has to be shown. Or supposing he did believe, would his own hot wrath lead him to some hasty action that would set him with Cobham and myself? Leave Satan triumphant. And what of Eve? What might she not do when she heard from Harry and what had happened to me? For I had no doubt that the little man would soon find a way of finding out what had occurred. What deviltries upon me was Satan hatching for his amusement? My night had not been an exactly hilarious one. The day had dragged endlessly. When I faced Satan, I hoped that I showed no signs of those hours. He had entered unannounced, Considine with him. He wore the long black cloak. His eyes glittered over me. I looked from him to Considine. Had Barker seen him? His face was calm, and he regarded me indifferently. My heart sank. Satan sat down. Without invitation, I followed suit. I pulled out my cigarette case and politely offered Satan one, a bit of childish bravado for which I was immediately sorry. He paid no attention to the gesture, studying me. "I am not angry with you, James Kirkham," Satan spoke. "If I could feel regret, I would feel it for you. But you yourself are wholly responsible for your plight." He paused. I made no answer. "You would have deceived me," he went on. "You lied to me. You attempted to save from my justice a man I had condemned. You put your will against mine. You dared to try to thwart me. You have endangered my venture regarding the Astarte, if indeed you have not negatived it. You are no more to be trusted. You are useless to me. What is the answer?" "My elimination, I suppose," I replied carelessly. "But why waste time justifying one of your murders, Satan? By this time I should think murder would be second nature to you, no more to be explained than why you eat when you're hungry." His eyes flickered. "You deliberately invited Cobham's confidences, and you would have attempted to prevent the sinking of the Astarte, knowing that I had decreed it," he said. "Right," I agreed. "And you lied to me," he repeated. "To me!" "One good lie deserves another, Satan," I answered. "You began the lying. If you had come clean with me, I'd have told you not to trust me with that job. You didn't. I suspected you hadn't. Very well. The man who lies to me in one thing will lie in another." I shot a swift glance at Considine. His face was as indifferent as ever, imperturbable as Satan's own. "The minute Cobham let the cat out of the bag, I lost all faith in you," I went on. "For all I know, your assassins on the Cherub might have had their orders to do away with me after I had pulled your chestnuts. As I once heard another of your dupes say, blame yourself, Satan, not me." Considine was watching me intently. I was feeling pretty reckless by now. "Father of lies," I said. "Or to give you another of your ancient titles, Prince of Liars. The whole matter can be summed up in 2 short sentences. You can't trust me, and I know too much. All right? For both of those conditions, you have only yourself to thank. But I also know you, and if you think I'm going to beg you for any mercy, you don't know me." "Considine," he said tranquilly, "James Kirkham had such good material in him. He could have been so useful to me. It's a pity, Considine. Yes, it is a pity." He regarded me benevolently. "Although frankly I do not see how the knowledge can profit you," he said. "I feel that you should know the error that betrayed you. Yes, I wish to help you, James Kirkham," the great voice purred. "For it may be that there is a land to which we go when this mortal coil is cut. If so, it is probably much like this. You may even find me or my counterpart there. You will not care to repeat your mistakes." I listened to this sinister jesting silently. After all, I was curious. Your first error was your reference to the bridge game. I noted the surprise it caused Cobham. You were too precipitate. You could just as well have waited your time. Remember then, if you should reach that next world, never to be precipitate. Obviously you had a reason. Equally obviously it was my cue to discover that reason. Lesson 2. In that world to which you may shortly be traveling, be careful to give to your opponent no cue to eavesdrop. When I re-entered, you ingeniously forbore to notice Cobham's very apparent consternation. You studiously kept your eyes from him during the ensuing conversation. That was too naive, James Kirkham. It showed you underestimated the intelligence you were seeking to convince. Your proper move was complete and instant indignation. You should have sacrificed Cobham by accusing him to me. In that bright new world in which you may or may not soon find yourself, never underestimate your opponent. But I gave you still another chance. Knowing Cobham, I knew that after my careful treatment, his mind would fasten upon you as a refuge, his only refuge. He was given the treatment. He saw you, and then he was allowed to escape. He came, as I thought he would, straight to you. If at the moment he entered your rooms you had caught him, sounded the alarm, again sacrificed him, perhaps I would still have believed in you. It was weakness, sentimentality. What was Cobham to you? Remember then in your new sphere to eschew all sentimentality. Out of that cynical harangue 2 facts apparently shone clear. Satan did not know that I had gone out of my rooms, nor that I had encountered Cobham outside them. I took some comfort from that. But had Cobham been caught? Would he tell? By the way, how is Cobham? I asked politely. Not so well, poor fellow, said Satan. Yet he was able to give me an enjoyable afternoon. At present, he is lying in the darkness of a crypt near the laboratory, resting. Shortly he will be given an opportunity to leave it. During his carefully guided wanderings thereafter he will have the chance to snatch a little food and drink. I do not wish him to wear himself out in his efforts to amuse me. Or, to put it another way, it is not my intention to allow him to die of exhaustion or famine. No, the excellent Cobham will provide me with many merry hours still. I shall not send him back to my little mirrors. They have drawn his fangs. But at the last I will inform him of your interest, since I am quite sure you will be unable. He arose. James Kirkham, said Satan, in half an hour you shall be judged. Be ready at that time to appear in the temple. Come, Conserdine. My hope that he would leave Conserdine with me went crumbling. Desperately I wanted to talk to him. He followed Satan out. The wall closed behind him. He had not even turned his head. I remembered Cartwright. Conserdine had brought him in, stood beside him before he had begun the ordeal of the steps. Probably he would return for me. But he did not. When the half-hour had elapsed, 4 of the keft drinkers came for me. 2 in front of me, 2 behind me, they marched me through long corridors and up steep ramps of stone. They halted. I heard the sound of a gong. A panel opened. The slaves would have pushed me in, but I struck aside their hands and stepped through. The panel closed. I stood within the temple. I was within the semi-darkness beyond the ring of brilliant light beating down upon the steps. I heard a murmuring. It came from my left where the amphitheater circled. I caught movement there, glimpses of white faces. The seats seemed full. I thought I heard Eve's voice, whispering, vibrant. Jim. I could not see her. I looked toward the dais. It was as it had been when I had watched Cartwright stumble up toward it. The golden throne gleamed. On it glittered the jeweled scepter and crown. Upon the black throne sat Satan. Squatting beside him, fiend's face a grin, twirling his cord of woman's hair, was Sanchal, the executioner. Again the gong sounded. James Kirkham, approach for judgment! I walked forward. I paused at the foot of the steps within the circle of light. The 7 glimmering prints of the child's foot stared at me out of the black stone. Guarding them, 7 upon each side, stood the white-robed slaves of the keft. Their eyes were fixed upon me. The thoughts went racing through my brain. Should I cry out the secret of the black throne to those who sat silent, watching me from the circled seats of stone? I knew that before I uttered a dozen words, the cords of the kept slaves would be strangling me. Could I make one swift dash up the steps and grapple with Satan, they would have me before I reached halfway. One thing I might do, take the steps leisurely, make my fourth and final one the sixth of the Shining Prince. Their arrangement was irregular. The sixth was not far from the Black Throne, closer than the seventh. I could leap from it upon Satan, sink fingers and teeth into his throat. Once I had gripped, I did not believe it would be easy for any to tear me away, were I alive or dead. But Barker might have his plan. It would not be like the little man to lurk hidden and supinely let me pass. And Considine. But did Considine know? And Eve? The thoughts jostled. I could not think clearly. I held fast to my last idea, fixing my gaze upon Satan's throat just below the ear. There was where I would sink my teeth. But was I to be allowed to take the steps? "James Kirkham," Satan's voice rolled forth, "I have set upon the throne of gold the crown and scepter of worldly power. It is to remind you of that opportunity which your contumacy has lost to you forever." I looked at them. For all that I cared, they might be bits of colored glass, but I heard a faint sighing from the hidden seats. "James Kirkham, you would have betrayed me. You are a traitor. Remains now but to decree your punishment." He paused again. In all the temple there was no sound. The silence was smothering. It was broken by a sibilant whirring, the twirling of the noose in the talons of the executioner. Satan raised a hand, and it was stilled. "Yet I am inclined to be merciful." Only I, perhaps, caught the malicious glint in the jewel-bright eyes. "There are three things which man has to which he clings hardest. In the last analysis, they are all he has. One is contained in the other, yet each is separate. They are his soul, his personality, and his life. By his soul, I mean that unseen and not yet accurately located essence upon which religion lays such stress, considers immortal, and that may or may not be. By personality, I mean the ego, the mind, that which says, 'I am I,' the storehouse of old memories, the seeker of new ones. Life I need not define. Now, James Kirkham, I offer you a choice. Upon one side I place your soul, upon the other your life and your mind. You may join my drinkers of the Keft. Drink it, and your life and your ego are safe. From time to time you will be happy with an intensity that normally you would never be. But you lose your soul. You will not miss it, at least not often. Soon the Keft will be more desirable to you than ever that usually troublesome guest somewhere within you." He paused again, scrutinizing me. "If you do not drink the Keft," he continued, "you take the steps. If you tread upon my three, you lose your life. Slowly, in agony, at the hands of Sanchal. If you tread upon the four fortunate ones, you shall have your life and your soul, but you must leave with me your ego, that which says I am I, all your memories. It will not be dangerous to you. It will not be painful. I will not give you to the mirrors. A sleep, and then a knife, cunningly cutting here and there within your brain. You will awaken as one newborn. Literally so, James Kirkham, since from you will have been taken, and taken forever, all recollection of what you have been. Like a child you will set forth upon your new pilgrimage, but with life, and with your precious soul unharmed." And now I heard a whispering behind me from the dark amphitheater. Satan raised his hand, and it was stilled. "Such is my decree," he intoned. "Such is my will. So shall it be." "I take the steps," I said with no hesitation. "Your guardian angels," he said unctuously, "applaud without doubt your decision. Yet remember that they have no power where Satan rules. I thought that would be your choice. And now to prove how little strained is the quality of my mercy, I offer you, James Kirkham, a door for escape. Escape with life and mind and soul, all three of them intact. Now I stared at him, every sense alert. Well, I knew that there was no mercy in Satan. Knowing, too, the secret of the steps, the diabolic mockery of that offer of his was an open page to me. But what blacker diabolism was coming, I was soon to learn. "The roots of this man's offense against me," he turned his gaze toward the amphitheater, "were in sentiment. He placed the welfare of others before mine. Let this be a lesson to all of you. I must be first. But I am just. Others he could save. Himself he could not save. Yet there may be one who can save him. He gives up, it is probable, his life, because he dared to stand between me and the lives of others. Is there one who will stand between me and his life?" Once more there came a murmuring, louder now from the hidden darkness of the temple, whisperings. "Wait!" He raised a hand. "This is what I mean. If there is one among you who will step forth and take but 3 of the steps in his place, then this is what shall happen. If 2 of the shining prints are fortunate, both shall go forth free and unharmed. Yes, even with rich reward. But if 2 of the steps are mine, then both shall die, and by those same torments which I have promised James Kirkham. Such is my decree, such is my will, so shall it be. And now, if such person there be, let him step forth." I heard a louder murmuring. I believed that he suspected I had not been alone. It might even be that this was a trap for Barker. I did not know to what lengths the little man's devotion might take him. At any rate, it was a line thrown out for the unwary. I walked hastily forward to the very base of the steps. "I can do my own climbing, Satan," I said. "Set your game." The murmuring behind me had grown louder. Satan's immobility dropped from him. For the first time I watched expression transform the mask of his face, and that transformation was at first utter incredulity, then a rage that leaped up straight from the pit. Plainly, as though that heavy face had melted away under it, I saw the hidden devil stand forth stark naked. I felt a touch upon my arm. Eve stood beside me. "Go back," I whispered to her fiercely. "Get back there." "Too late," she said tranquilly. She looked up at Satan. "I will take the steps for him, Satan," she said. Satan raised himself up from the black throne, hands clenched. He glanced once at the executioner. The black leaned forward, loop whirling. I threw myself in front of Eve. "Your word, Satan!" came a voice from the amphitheater, a voice I did not recognize. "Your decree!" Satan glared out into the darkness, striving to identify the speaker. He signed to the executioner, and the black dropped the whirling cord. Satan sank into his throne. With dreadful effort he thrust back the freed devil that had snatched away the mask. His face resumed its immobility. But he could not banish that devil from his eyes. "It was my decree," he intoned monotonously, but there was something strangled in the voice. "So shall it be. You offer Eve Demarest to take the steps for him?" "Yes," she answered. "Why?" "Because I love him," said Eve calmly. Satan's hands twisted beneath his robe. The heavy lips contorted. Upon the enormous dome of his bald head, tiny drops of sweat suddenly sprang out, glistening. Abruptly, he reached forward and drew back the lever. The shining prints glimmered out as though touched with fire. I heard no whirring of the hidden cogs. What did that mean? I looked at Satan. Either I had been mistaken, or else in the rage that ruled him he had not noticed. I had no time to speculate. "Eve Demarest," the rolling tones still had their curiously strangled note, "you shall take the steps, and all shall be according to my decree. But this I tell you, none who has ever taken them and lost has died as you shall die. What they went through was paradise, measured against that which you shall undergo if you lose, and so shall it be with your lover. First you shall see him die. Before he passes he will turn from you with loathing and with hate, that he ever knew you. And then I shall give you to Sanchal, but not for him to slay, No, no, not yet. When he is through with you, the drinkers of the keft shall have you, the lowest of them. It shall be after them that Sancho shall possess you again, for his cords and his knives and his irons, for his sport and for mine." He pulled at the neck of his cloak as though it choked him. He signaled to the slaves who stood on the bottom steps. He gave them some command in the unknown tongue. They slithered toward me. I tensed my muscles, about to make one despairing rush upon the blazing-eyed devil in the black throne. Eve covered her face with her hands.
"Jim, darling,"
she whispered swiftly under their shelter.
"Go quietly, Barker. Something's going to happen."
The slaves had me. I let them lead me over to the chair from which I had watched Cartwright mount to his doom. They pressed me into it. Arm and leg bands snapped into place. The veil dropped over my head. They marched away. A whisper came from below and behind me.
"Captain, the clamps don't hold. There's a gun right behind the slide. It's open. I'm in a hell of a hurry. When you see me next, grab it and get busy."
"Eve Demarest," called Satan. "The steps await. Ascend." Eve walked forward steadily. Unhesitatingly, she put her foot upon the first of the shining prints. A symbol leaped out in the fortunate field of the swinging globe. I heard a murmur, louder than before, go up from the darkened amphitheater. Satan watched, immobile. She mounted and set her foot in the next gleaming mark of the child's foot. I saw Satan bend suddenly forward, glaring at the telltale, stark disbelief in his eyes. From the amphitheater, the murmuring swelled into a roar. A second symbol shone out in the fortunate field. She had won our freedom. But how had it happened? And what was Eve doing? She had mounted to the third print. She pressed upon it. Out upon the telltale sprang a third symbol to join the other two. Satan's face was writhing. The roaring at the back of the temple had become a tumult. I heard men shouting. Satan was fumbling frantically under his robe. And now Eve sped up the intervening steps between her and the days. As she passed them, she trod upon each of the gleaming prints. And as she trod, out upon the fortunate field appeared, one after the other, a shining symbol. 7 of them in the fortunate field. None in Satan's. The roaring had become deafening. Satan leaped from the black throne. The wall behind him opened. Out sprang Barker, automatic in his hand. Now he was at Satan's side, the barrel of the gun thrust into his belly. The tumult in the temple stilled, as though a cloud of silence had fallen upon it.
"Hands up," snarled the little man. "Way up. 2 ticks and I scatter your guts over the map."
Up went Satan's hands high over his head. I threw myself forward. The clamps of the chair gave so suddenly that I slipped to my knees. I reached back into the slit and felt the barrel of a pistol. I gripped it. The executioner Sancho was crouching, ready to spring. I shot from the floor, and with an accuracy that gave me one of the keenest joys I had ever known, I drilled Sancho through the head. He fell sideways, flopping half down the steps. The kept slaves stood dazed, irresolute, waiting command.
"One move of them bastards and you're in pieces,"
I heard Harry say.
"Tell 'em, quick!"
He jabbed the muzzle of the gun viciously into Satan's side. Satan spoke. The voice that came from his lips was like that which one hears in nightmare. To this day I do not like to remember it. It was a command in the unknown tongue, but I had a swift, uneasy suspicion that it held more than the bare order to remain quiet. The slaves dropped their ropes. They slid back toward the walls. I took the steps on the jump. Eve was beside Barker. I ranged myself at Satan's other side. She slipped behind him and joined me. The tumult in the amphitheater burst out afresh. Men were struggling together in the semi-darkness. There was a rush down from the seats. The edge of the brilliant circle was abruptly lined with figures. Out from them stepped Considine. His face was chalk white. His eyes burned with a fire that matched Satan's own. He held his hands before him with fingers curved like talons. He stalked forward like a walking death, and his eyes never left Satan.
"Not yet," whispered Barker. "Stop him, Captain."
"Considine," I called. "Stop where you are." He paid no heed. He walked on slowly, like a sleepwalker, the dreadful gaze upon Satan unwavering. "Considine," I called again, sharply. "Stop! I'll drop you. I mean it. I don't want to kill you, but another step and I drop you. By God, I will." He halted.
You will not kill him. You will leave him for me.
Considine's voice was thin and high. It was death speaking. If we can, I answered him. But keep those others back. One move against us and Satan goes. And some of you with him. We've no time to pick friends from foes. He turned and spoke to them. Again they were silent, watching.
Now then, Captain, said Barker briskly. Stick your gun in him and move him over here. I'm going to show him.
I thrust the automatic just under Satan's lower ribs and pushed him toward the throne of gold. He moved over unresistingly, quietly, almost stolidly. He did not even look at me. I studied him, the vague apprehension growing stronger. He was intent upon Considine. His face had regained all its impassivity, but the devil looked out of his eyes unchained. It came to me that he believed Considine to be the arch-traitor, that it was he who had set the snare, that we were Considine's tools. But why this apparently passive resignation? Even with our guns at his belly, it was not what I would have expected of Satan. And it seemed to me that beside the murder in his gaze there was a certain contempt. Had he also a final ace in the hole? My uneasiness increased sharply.
Now look, all of you, I'm going to show you what this double-crossing swine has been doing to you.
It was Barker speaking. I did not dare turn my eyes from Satan to see what he was doing, but there was no need, I knew.
Promising you this and that, went on the Cockney drawl, sending you to hell, and all the time larfing it up his sleeves at you. Larfing fit to die, he was, and you like a parcel of trusting infants. I'm going to show you. Miss Demarest, will you please walk down and then walk up them prints again?
I saw Eve go down the steps.
Wait a second. She halted at the bottom. Here I am sitting in his throne. I pull the lever, but after I pulled it, I press on the edge of the seat, like this. Now, Miss Demarest, walk up.
Eve ascended, stepping upon each of the shining prints. I could see out of the corner of my eye the telltale. Nothing appeared on it. No symbol either upon the darkened field or lighted. There was no sound from the watchers. They seemed dazed, waiting what was to come next.
Didn't make a damn bit of difference where you trod, said Barker. It didn't register. 'Cause why? When I pressed on the edge of the throne, a little plate slipped down under there where the machinery is. And at the same time, the cogs what made the contacts, what flashed the signals on the globe, got moved over to another set of contacts. The steps would work all right when he wanted 'em to. They was always set right when he was off his throne, but after he'd set himself on his bloody black chair, he'd hide his hands and press and disconnect 'em. Hell, a flock of elephants could have walked up 'em and they'd never give a blink.
The tumult broke out afresh. Men, women, too, crying out, cursing. They surged forward, farther into the ring of light. "Back!" I shouted. "Hold them back, Considine!"
"Wait!"
yelped Barker.
"Wait! That ain't orf what the swine's done to you."
The uproar died. They stared up at us again. Considine had moved to the very bottom of the steps. His face was, if possible, whiter. His eyes glared upon Satan from rings, black as though painted. He was panting. I wished Harry would hurry. Considine was near the end of his restraint. I didn't want to shoot him. All of this I had seen incompletely. Suddenly I had the thought that Satan was listening. Listening not to anything within the temple, but for some sound far away. That he was willing with complete concentration of all his unholy power, for some certain thing to happen. And as I watched, I seemed to see a flicker of triumph pass over the marble face.
"Now," came Barker's voice, "I'm going to show you. Here on the same hedge is 7 little places. Rubber set in the stone. After he'd disconnect the contacts from the steps, he put his fingertips on each of them places. 3 of 'em was linked up to the contacts, so's they'd flash the marks on his side of the telltale. The other 4 was rigged up to flash 'em on your side. When any of you tread on a print, he'd press the button he wanted. Up would go the mark of the one he'd picked. You didn't make them marks show up. He did. He had you going and coming." "Wait a minute, just a minute." Clearly Barker was enjoying himself. "I'm going to sit in this chair and show you. Going to show you just what blinking bloody fools he made out of you." "Jim," there was alarm in Eve's voice close to my ear. "Jim, I've just noticed. There were 7 of the kef drinkers along that wall. Now there are only 6. One of them has slipped away.
At that instant I knew for what Satan had been listening and waiting. I had been right when I had sensed in his command to the slaves something more than an order to be quiescent. He had bade them watch for an opportunity that would let one of them creep away and raise the alarm. Loose upon those who threatened him the horde of those soulless, merciless devils to whom Satan was as a god, since he, and only he, could open to them their paradise. In the absorption of us all in the drama of Satan's unmasking, a slave had found that opportunity. Had been gone. How long? The thoughts flashed through my head in a split second. And at that same instant the hell which had been piling up slowly and steadily in the temple like thunderheads broke loose. Without warning, swiftly as the darting of a snake, Satan's arm struck down. It caught my arm. It sent my automatic hurtling, exploding as it flew. I heard Eve scream, heard Barker's sharp yelp. I saw Considine leaping up the steps, straight for Satan. Abruptly the whole temple was flooded with light. Like an image caught between the opening and shutting of a camera shutter, I had a glimpse of Bedlam. Those who would have followed Considine and those who were still faithful to Satan struggling for mastery. Satan's hand swept in to catch me, lift me, hurl me against Considine. Quicker than he, I dropped, twisting, and threw myself with every ounce of my strength against his legs. He tottered. A foot slipped upon the edge of the dais. He reeled down a step or two, swaying in effort to regain his balance. Considine was upon him. His hands gripped Satan's throat. The mighty arms of Satan wrapped themselves around him. The two fell. Locked, they went rolling down the steps. There was a howling like packs of wolves. At the back of the temple and at the two sides the panels flew open. Through them seethed the keft slaves.
"Quick, Captain!"
Barker spun me around. He pointed to the throne of gold.
"Behind it!"
He grunted and ran. I caught Eve's arm and we raced after him. He was on his knees, working frantically at the floor. Something clicked and a block slid aside. I saw a hole down which dropped a narrow flight of steps.
"Go first,"
said Barker.
"Quick!"
Eve slipped through. As I followed, I caught a glimpse of the temple through the legs of the throne. It was a seething place of slaughter. The knives of the keft slaves were flashing. Men were shooting. From side to side was battle. Of Satan and Considine I saw nothing. There were a dozen of the slaves rushing up the stairs toward us. Barker shoved me down the hole. He jumped after me, landing almost on my head. The slab closed.
"Hurry!"
gasped Barker.
"Gord, if he gets us now!"
The stairs led into a barren small chamber of stone. Over our heads we could hear the tumult. The feet of the fighters beat on the ceiling like drums.
"Watch the stairs. Where's your gun? Here, take mine."
Barker thrust his automatic into my hand. He turned to the wall, scrutinizing it. I ran back to where the narrow stairs entered the chamber. I could hear hands working at the block.
"Got it!"
cried Barker.
"Hurry!"
A slab had opened in the wall. We passed through. It shut behind us. I could see no place in the wall to mark where it had been. We stood in one of those long and dimly lighted corridors that honeycombed Satan's house. Clearly to us came the turmoil of the fighting above us. There were 5 quick, sharp explosions, and then abruptly, as though at some command, the turmoil was stilled. End of chapter 19.